Today, we're diving into 6 wrestlers that Vince McMahon refused to exploit, and the stories behind them are absolutely unbelievable. Let's jump into the video and find out who these stars really were and what made them so untouchable. 1. The Undertaker. The Undertaker is widely seen as one of the most respected and reliable figures in wrestling history, and Vince McMahon treated him that way for good reason. From the moment he joined the company, The Undertaker carried himself with a professionalism that few could match. He was the kind of wrestler who not only delivered in the ring, but also set the tone for everyone around him. McMahon recognized that quality and understood that pushing The Undertaker into angles or storylines he was uncomfortable with could harm both the performer and the product. Vince McMahon had a personal and professional respect for The Undertaker that went beyond simply appreciating his wrestling ability. He saw him as the conscience of the locker room, someone who could be trusted to maintain order and guide younger talent. The Undertaker had earned his reputation over years of consistent performance, loyalty, and dedication to the business. He was known for understanding what the fans wanted and for delivering matches and segments that were memorable without needing to rely on cheap gimmicks or extreme storylines. McMahon respected this approach and rarely forced The Undertaker into anything that went against his instincts. Another reason McMahon avoided exploiting The Undertaker was because he understood the value of maintaining mystique. The Undertaker's aura and character were powerful because they were carefully protected. Vince knew that compromising that image for the sake of a quick storyline or shock angle could lessen the impact of one of wrestling's most iconic figures. Instead, he trusted The Undertaker to choose his moments, which often resulted in some of the most dramatic and unforgettable segments in WWE history. Vince also valued The Undertaker's loyalty to the company. He stayed committed to WWE for decades, working long hours and maintaining his craft at a high level. McMahon understood that pushing him too far creatively could risk losing not only a great performer, but also a trusted figure who helped uphold the integrity of the locker room. By respecting The Undertaker's boundaries, Vince ensured that both the character and the performer continued to thrive, benefiting the business as a whole. 2. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin became one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling history, and Vince McMahon understood early on that he was a unique talent who could not be treated like everyone else. Austin had a natural charisma, an energy, and a connection with the audience that made him invaluable. At the same time, he had the intelligence and business sense to know when a storyline or angle was not in his best interest or the company's long-term benefit. Vince recognized that Austin's instincts were often right, and he respected the fact that sometimes it was better to let Austin have input rather than force him into something that could backfire. Austin famously walked out of WWE during a time when he disagreed with the creative direction being planned for him. While many performers might have quietly accepted what they were given, Austin was willing to take a stand for himself and his character. This was risky, but it also showed McMahon that Austin cared deeply about his own brand and the integrity of the product. Rather than seeing this as purely rebellious behavior, Vince understood that Austin's pushback came from experience, insight, and a sense of responsibility to deliver the best possible show for the fans. Another reason McMahon chose not to exploit Austin too harshly was because he realized that Austin's star power could carry the company. When Austin said no to a storyline, it was not out of disrespect, but because he understood the timing, the audience reaction, and what would make him believable and compelling. McMahon knew that forcing Austin into angles he did not support could have undermined that power. Respecting Austin's judgment allowed both the performer and the company to thrive, creating some of the most iconic moments in wrestling history. Vince also valued Austin's work ethic and loyalty. Despite conflicts, Austin continued to deliver incredible matches and segments, showing that he was committed to the business. McMahon knew that keeping Austin happy and creatively involved was essential for maintaining his legendary status. By trusting Austin's instincts and listening to his concerns, Vince avoided overexposing or exploiting a talent who was far too valuable to mishandle. 3. John Cena. John Cena earned Vince McMahon's respect because he was one of the most loyal and hard-working performers the company has ever had. From the moment he stepped into WWE, Cena consistently demonstrated dedication, professionalism, and a willingness to go above and beyond for the business. McMahon recognized that Cena's work ethic, coupled with his ability to connect with fans of all ages, made him far too valuable to risk in controversial or overly risky storylines. Vince understood that Cena's appeal extended beyond wrestling into mainstream media, and that protecting his character was essential for both the company's image and long-term success. Cena's connection with younger audiences played a major role in how McMahon handled his creative direction. John was not just a wrestler, he was a role model for kids appearing in movies, television shows, and public appearances. Vince knew that pushing Cena into angles that were too adult, overly violent, or controversial could damage that image and limit his mainstream potential. By respecting Cena's character and keeping him aligned with family-friendly storylines, McMahon ensured that Cena remained relatable, inspiring, and marketable to a wide audience. Another reason McMahon avoided exploiting Cena too aggressively was Cena's on-screen consistency. Cena had the rare ability to perform at a high level every night while maintaining a character that fans could cheer or support. McMahon recognized that Cena's character strength came from careful handling, and forcing him into gimmicks or angles that did not fit his persona could backfire. Vince knew Cena could carry storylines without needing shock value, which meant respecting his boundaries actually benefited the overall product. McMahon also valued Cena's loyalty to WWE. Cena consistently showed up, worked hard in the ring, and represented the company positively both on and off camera. He understood the importance of the business and treated it with respect. Vince saw this commitment and responded by protecting Cena's character from unnecessary exploitation, trusting him to handle his role with professionalism and consistency. 4. Bret, the Hitman. Bret, the Hitman. Hart was one of those rare performers whose talent and dedication earned both admiration and caution from Vince McMahon. Even though their relationship became famously complicated because of the Montreal Screwjob, McMahon always recognized Bret's immense skill and old-school wrestling roots. Bret was known for his technical mastery, storytelling in the ring, and commitment to making every match look clean and believable. Vince understood that exploiting someone with Bret's level of respect for the craft could backfire, both creatively and professionally. McMahon's decision to avoid overexploiting Bret often stemmed from a combination of respect and pragmatism. Bret had been trained in the old-school approach to wrestling, which valued discipline, precision, and a strong connection with the audience over gimmicks or overly theatrical storylines. Vince understood that Bret's credibility was built on this foundation. Pushing him into angles that conflicted with his approach could damage both his character and the product. Honoring Bret's strengths meant giving him room to perform in a way that matched his abilities, and Vince respected that judgment. Another reason McMahon was careful with Bret was the almost father-son-like respect they shared at times. Before the Screwjob, Vince saw Bret as someone who carried the company with integrity. He trusted Bret to represent WWE at a high level and to work with younger talent in a way that reinforced the company's values. Vince understood that pushing Bret beyond his comfort zone could break that trust and harm the working relationship. While the Montreal incident was a breaking point, prior to that there was a deep mutual understanding rooted in professional admiration. McMahon also recognized Bret's loyalty to the business and to the company's legacy. Bret's dedication to wrestling's craft made him invaluable. Exploiting him with unnecessary storylines or gimmicks would have undermined his reputation and the credibility of the matches he worked. Vince knew that respecting Bret's limits helped maintain the standard of professionalism in WWE, showing both performers and fans that talent was not just a tool to be manipulated. 5. The Rock is one of the most recognizable names in wrestling and entertainment, and Vince McMahon treated him with a level of respect that reflected both his talent and his business savvy. From the moment The Rock rose to prominence in WWE, it was clear that he had something special. He combined natural charisma, incredible mic skills, and a presence that could electrify a crowd like few others. McMahon understood that The Rock's appeal was not something that could be forced or exploited without risking the very qualities that made him a star. One of the main reasons Vince avoided exploiting The Rock too aggressively was because of his leverage as a top performer. By the time The Rock reached the peak of his career, he was not just a wrestler. He was a global personality with mainstream recognition. McMahon respected performers who could create their own brand and understood that pushing him into storylines or angles that did not fit his character could be counterproductive. The Rock had the ability to influence his own career, and McMahon knew that allowing him creative input often led to stronger storylines, more memorable moments, and better business outcomes. McMahon also valued The Rock's business sense. Beyond wrestling, The Rock was making moves in Hollywood and other media ventures, which increased his profile and marketability. McMahon respected that The Rock understood his own value and was willing to negotiate or push back when he felt certain angles were not in his best interest. Rather than forcing him into potentially damaging situations, McMahon often listened and adjusted, understanding that The Rock's input could benefit the company as much as it benefited the performer. Another reason The Rock was protected from exploitation was his unique connection with the audience. Fans trusted The Rock to deliver his lines, his matches, and his moments with authenticity. McMahon knew that taking creative liberties without The Rock's agreement could undermine that trust and weaken his appeal. By allowing him to help shape his character, McMahon ensured that The Rock remained relatable, compelling, and entertaining at every stage of his career. 6. CM Punk. CM Punk became one of the most outspoken and fearless performers in modern wrestling, and Vince McMahon quickly realized that trying to force him into angles he did not agree with would often backfire. Punk was never shy about speaking his mind, and he had a strong sense of what he believed worked for his character and for the audience. Vince understood that Punk's instincts were often rooted in a deep understanding of storytelling and fan reaction, which meant pushing him into storylines that felt demeaning or creatively weak was rarely a good idea. The infamous pipe bomb moment perfectly demonstrated why Vince respected Punk, even if it came with tension. Punk took a bold risk by addressing real frustrations and breaking the fourth wall, creating a storyline that blurred reality and fiction in a way few wrestlers could manage. Vince saw that this kind of honesty and defiance could be dangerous if handled poorly, but he also recognized that Punk's approach resonated strongly with fans and elevated the product. Instead of attempting to exploit Punk with unnecessary gimmicks or force him into angles that compromised his voice, McMahon often chose to let Punk have input, knowing that it could lead to highly successful storylines. Another reason McMahon avoided exploiting Punk excessively was Punk's unwavering professionalism in the ring. While he was vocal about creative disagreements, Punk consistently delivered high-quality matches and respected the safety and performance of his peers. Vince valued performers who could combine talent, reliability, and a strong sense of personal integrity. Punk's ability to stand up for himself without compromising his in-ring work made him someone McMahon knew needed to be approached with care. Punk's respect was earned through his passion for wrestling and his desire to maintain credibility for both himself and the business. McMahon understood that exploiting his character without Punk's agreement could damage not only Punk's appeal, but also the believability of the storylines he was involved in. By allowing Punk to speak up and set limits, McMahon preserved the authenticity of the character and in turn maintained fan investment. And that wraps up today's video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe so you never miss an update, and we'll see you again soon.